everyone. I'm Aarti Nagraj, editor of Gulf Business, and I would like to extend a very, very warm welcome to all of you for this second session of Gulf Business Talks. Firstly, I hope all of you are staying safe during these very uncertain times. Today's topic is very, very relevant to each and every one of us. The COVID-19 crisis has disrupted organizations, and we've all heard of layoffs across the board. Now, in fact, according to the UN Labour Agency ILO, in the second quarter of this year, globally, the decline in the number of working hours was equal to the loss of 400 million full-time jobs. That's a huge number. And so understandably, a lot of people are extremely insecure, anxious about their roles. And then on a personal front as well, for many workers, what has happened is that returning to the workplace has meant anxiety from a health perspective. And for those with children at home, firstly, they had to deal with online education, coping with remote working and online education. And now during the summer holidays, they're trying to find ways to keep the children occupied. So basically, every employee, every worker is going through a myriad of different issues and situations right now. So in such uncertain times, what can companies do to ensure that their workers feel motivated, they feel valued, and they're able to remain productive? Before I introduce my panel to you, just a quick recap of all the format and the facilities we have. Every one of you has a Q&A option here. So during the discussion, any question you have, feel free to post it there and we'll take it up. We also have time for a dedicated Q&A at the very end of the discussion. So there is an option to virtually raise your hand. So if you do that, we'll unmute you in the end, and then you can ask your question directly. The session is being live streamed on Facebook. So if you have any questions which we are unable to take during the discussion, feel free to post them there and we'll take them live after. Ensure that please follow Gulf Business on all our social media accounts, Twitter, Facebook at Gulf Business, and at Gulf Business Magazine on Instagram. And now let me introduce my panel for today. We have with us Gulf Business Academy trainers and expert motivators, Mark Dickinson and Spencer Lodge. Thank you so much for joining us. Maybe just a quick intro about yourselves and then we'll go into the main discussion.
Great,
Mark?
Thanks Aarti, great to be here. 35 years managing people is quite a while. I've been in Scotland, China, Uganda, Thailand, Japan, Lebanon. It's been a long journey, and now here in the UAE, and it's a lot of it's been hospitality-based management, coaching, training, and business strategy. So very excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you so much, Mark. We are excited to have you here. Spencer, just a quick intro.
Yeah, founder of the Blue Sky Thinking Group at the Make It Happen Sales Training University. I'm a out and out, born and bred salesperson where motivation and inspiration are the order of the day every single day. So if there's anything I've learned about, it's definitely that. So it's nice to be here.
Thank you so much. Thanks once again. And we're really excited. I'm going to start with what I just mentioned initially. This has been a very, very tough year for all of us. We were struggling initially to cope with remote working, and now when we come back to the workplace, there's again more adjusting to do. So how best can companies handle this transition for all of their employees? And so what do you think?
I think what's happened over the course of the last few months is something that was slowly evolving in time anyway. And so had we not had the coronavirus, maybe in 3 years' time we'd be in exactly the same position, maybe 4, maybe 5, but there would be a period of time in the future where we'd be there. So what have companies learned? Well, they've learned that some people need people, i.e. some people get their energy from others. So being in the working environment is good for them. They've also learned that some people get energy drained from other people. So working on their own, they get to be way more productive and way more efficient with their time. And they get their energy maybe from their family or from other aspects of their life. And so companies have really got to understand that now. Rather than having a blanket approach for everybody, they've got to say to themselves, what can we do to make sure that we can get the best out of our staff? And if that means John and Mohammed and Alan and Graham work at home, okay, and Joanne and Kelly work at the office because they need that, then we need to facilitate that because we need to get the best out of our people. And the way to get the best out of our people is to give them the best environment for them to work in and let them feel valued. And a lot of employers at the moment will be thinking about running their businesses and being as efficient as possible. But a company, any company really, is just a group of people. All it is a group of people that come together to create something, to work towards a common goal, and some more driven than others, some more interested than others, but it just is a group of people. And so if you can understand that and really take that seriously, then you'll focus on the most important part of every business, and that is the people.
Do you think there should be, do companies automatically understand this? I mean, everybody knows it theoretically. From a practical perspective, do you think there should be, should HR be given rules, or should this be something which is more dynamic in a sense?
All depends on what type of business you're dealing with. You have the SME sector, which 50% of the GDP of this country, non-oil revenue comes from that sector. 42% of the employees in this country are in the SME space. So let's compare it to maybe the United States and the UAE. We had the COVID situation happen, and the first thing that all of us, the man on the street noticed was that our kids weren't going to go to school. So we were all up in arms and no one's going to school. What's this all about? This is ridiculous. And then a few weeks later, other countries started to follow suit. And what we saw is that this country pivoted very quickly. It made some dynamic changes very quickly, just like a small business. However, in the United States, where you have a bigger population, more people, a government with parliament and bureaucracy, everyone's having to position themselves to think about what they can do for the best. But nobody was really working together, which created delays in action being taken. So I believe in SME is like that. If there's a guy that owns a company and there's a couple of board directors, it's much different than taking that business and changing it than it is taking a Nima or an Emirates Airlines or something like that. And so companies can make very quick decisions. What do we have to remember? Number one rule of business, okay, is to keep the business going. That's the number one rule. Number two rule of business is to make sure you have cash flow. Profit isn't essential, okay? It's preferred, but it's not essential at difficult times. Cash flow is. You must have money coming through the door. And if that means you have to look at your business and say, were we actually spending a bit more than we needed to before when times were good? Were we actually being as efficient as a business as we could have been? And a lot of companies will have gone through that cycle of going, hold on a minute, we didn't really need to spend on that and on this and on that. Maybe we could save some money here. And that also included some manpower. And the reason that manpower inefficiency was observed is because the employee has as much of a responsibility to the company as the employer. I think a lot of the time they put the pressure on the employer. You've got to look after your people. Well, no. If you're paid a salary to work in a company, there are responsibilities that you have to commit to. And if you haven't been committing to those, for whatever reason, then you may be an inefficiency in the business. And so it's important that you understand your role within a company. And if a company said, you know what, let's cut things that aren't essential, and potentially you've been cut, then there'll be a reason behind it. What I said to everybody at the start of this is, everyone that had a job, do your best to be the most important employee in the company. Make sure you shine. Make sure your boss thinks you're irreplaceable. Make sure he thinks, I can't run this business without you. This is your opportunity now to demonstrate to your employer how good you are and how much you can help the company.
So it works both ways in a sense, from an employer and an employee perspective. Mark, what's your take on this? Like you mentioned,
I love Spencer's perspective, and I want to add on a slightly different angle. A lot of managers now are coming back into the companies, and they're like, what are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to handle people? So I want to encourage people to do something that they haven't done before, which is to create one-on-one care meetings where every manager will meet every employee in a face-to-face friendly way and say, how was this time for you? What did you experience? How did you feel? And they stop talking and listen. STAL. Stop talking and listen. Managers have now to become this incredible sponge that just absorbs, because there's a lot of anger, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. And so the manager's role is actually shifted through this time. And managers need to be reaching out, giving a lot of love, giving a lot of care. And yet, there's still this requirement for performance, but less focus on the performance, more focus on the people, because when the people feel that care, they're automatically going to grow. They're automatically going to give more. And so I sort of summarize it as this: stop talking platitudes and invest in attitudes. In other words, cut out this useless nonsense that, the blah, blah, blah that, everything's going to be fine. Everything is not going to be fine. Everything is going to take a lot of hard work to become there. And so don't give false promises and false hope. Get real, get serious, listen a lot, and then walk together with your people into this unknown future. And I think people will engage. They will feel so important because you listen to them. And that's going to motivate them. And they have the best solutions, man. They know better than you how to solve this thing. And they have brilliant ideas. And if you listen, it will accelerate the recovery. Not recovery, because you're not going to recover. You're going to go somewhere new. You're going to go to a new zone where business is going to be different. So that would be my advice.
One thing which we spoke briefly about employees, from an employee perspective, and I've heard this anecdotally from a lot of people here, is that there's been a lot of balancing that they've been expected to do. There's more extreme pressure. So, and maybe Spencer, taking on your point that everybody wants to shine and show themselves as being kind of indispensable, where work-life balance has, tilted too much in favor of work. I've heard this from a lot of people where they're just working long hours every day, they're exhausted. So how can this be addressed? What do you say, Spencer?
I think you need to really understand that, because that might just be opinion. I think what has happened is people aren't working longer hours. I would argue a lot of people are working less, maybe more condensed in their work. But I think this whole Zoom fatigue happened as well, where people were sitting there at their screen all day long, where they hadn't done that. They'd got up to grab a coffee, chat to somebody at the water bottle and the water filter machine and all that kind of stuff. Go to the toilet, grab lunch, brainstorm in a boardroom. They haven't had that. And I certainly felt it at the beginning of lockdown, where I was 12 hours a day on Zoom. And I would never have done more than maybe 2 hours on a webinar on Zoom in a day before. And back when I was doing 2 hours, I was exhausted after that. I'm like, whoa, I did a webinar today. So, whoa, flipping out, I'm wiped out. And then we're stuck into doing it for that 10 hours a day, one after the other. So I think there is fatigue from that point of view, but I don't necessarily believe people have worked harder. But we have to be very real about this situation. As much as we can talk about the nice stuff, there's some important things to remember. Number one, companies are getting rid of employees in massive numbers all over the world. There are a lot of incredible leaders of businesses, wonderful human beings that have demonstrated their caliber for many years, and even they are having to face up to the fact that they're going to have to make lots of layoffs. So that's a reality that exists. Whatever we think about it, 45 million people in America being made unemployed, that should scare everybody. So it's going to then be an employer's market when it comes to recruiting. And also, when companies get rid of people, they've got to focus on the people that can be the most valuable to the business. People forget that the word business is at the head of business. It is business, and sometimes business isn't always as fun as it is. Now, the other thing you got to remember is that this whole word of motivation, I think, is actually a bit of a nonsense word. I don't believe in motivation, because motivation doesn't last. Mark will be able to confirm with me on this. If Mark and I go and do a 1 or a 2 day training session with a company, we go in, okay, after those 2 days, you have people that are willing to run through walls. Their life's been changed. They've had moments, they've had light bulb moments, things have happened, and they're like, this is the best thing ever. It's the most amazing thing. I feel re-energized, refocused. I can't believe I've learned this. I didn't know this before. Okay, and they can run through walls for about 3 days. And then after 3 days, they've forgotten what was said, Okay, they have. Okay, they've remembered bits and pieces, they've forgotten a lot of it, and they go back to their habits from before. And so what people don't need is motivation. What people need is inspiration. And so when it comes to the working environment, you have to be inspired by the person who leads you. You have to be inspired by the work you do. You have to be inspired by the difference you make. And everybody's different, so we're not all inspired by the same things. You know, I'm passionate about sales. I want everyone to understand how important and critical and essential sales are to business. So I have my angle, Mark has his, and you know what? You can get another 100 people on here with different opinions. But if we can get people inspired, that's the thing. So Mohammed Alabar did with Emar, took everyone's job titles away yesterday. What a bold, brave move. But you know what? I guarantee you there'll be some people in that company that went, but you just took my job title away. And there's other people in that company that went, you just took my job title away. How cool is that? We're all equal. And they have just gone from there to there in their interpretation and their value of the company. And now they're fired up to do more, be more, create more, give more, show more, offer more. And that's just a fantastic thing. So there's companies can take clues from that. If a company like Emar could do something like that, then it's not above anybody.
Mark, what do you think about work-life balance? Is it real? Do you think? Because I've heard that.
Definitely.
What's your take on it?
First, I want to endorse what Spencer just said. I mean, I put a big stamp on the bottom of that. And as much as we do these seminars, it's absolutely true. And I think that the time is where, you know, you've got to stop depending on these moments of light bulb moments and create a lifestyle and a work style that is going to keep them going all the time. So I really love what Spencer was saying. Now, here's what I think. People have to actually track the real amount of work they do. Okay. And then what they got to do is they've got to minus from that distracted time. If you're sitting at your computer in your house, and we've been doing that for like the last 4 or 5 months, sitting on Facebook, sitting on Twitter or Instagram or surfing or getting distracted by YouTube or TikTok and going down the rabbit hole is not work.
Right.
Okay? And so you got to stop fooling yourself that, oh yeah, I was working so hard, man. No, you weren't. You worked on your work for 3 hours, 2 hours, 4 hours, 1.5 hours, I don't know. So you've got to minus that. And then you got to remember also that when you're going to your office, you had a travel time going there. Some people have a travel time up to an hour each way. That's 2 hours. So your day wasn't 8 hours in the office. Your day was maybe 10 or 12 hours. And you were committing all that time. And now you're whining that, oh gosh, I'm working much harder. No, you're not. You just have to quantify it so you can put it in its right space. And so the way to do that is, you know, all these online digital calendars are amazing. Just click a start and click a stop when you're working. And then at the end of your day, just go, well, how many hours did I actually work today? And you'll find that, oh yeah, actually I did play with the kids for an hour and a half, and I did have lunch with the family for an hour and a half, and you know, I did pop out to the store, so I didn't actually work 12 or 14 hours. I worked actually 6 hours. Oh gosh, I need to up the level. And so what it is quantifying gives you this freedom and says, that's how much I really did. And I honestly think that there are people who are working 14, 15 hours. Yeah, I get that. And they do that in the office and they do it at home. So there's really no change. But the people who are at home, who, you know, they're whining, typically as soon as we start whining, it means we're trying to distract. It's like the magician. You know, look over here, but the trick is happening down here. So they're telling you, oh, I'm working so hard and it's much more difficult. No, it's not. It's a lot easier, but I have to make noise so you think I'm working harder. So I think it's a little bit about being honest. A little bit about getting focused and saying, you know what am I really putting out? I'm still getting my salary. I'm still in the company and I'm really grateful. So I'm going to cut out the whining. I'm going to up my level of commitment.
My next question, I think, relates to Spencer. You mentioned about Emar's big bold move. Now that is a way, like you said, for some of the employees to feel more secure, to feel valued within the company. But you are still seeing job cuts, you are still seeing salary cuts, you're seeing all of that happening across the board. You're seeing companies being shut down as well. So people are very insecure about their positions. How can companies address this, or people themselves, how can they move beyond being insecure? Mark?
How long do I get for this?
Is your, something you would love to talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, you're employed because you add value. And when you don't add value, then you're not needed. So it goes back to what Spencer said before, is this is your time to really show how much value you can add. If you're floating along and nagging and whining and complaining, your value is going down. Now, what are the two drivers? If I hire you today in a job, I tell you, great, I'm going to hire you today. You're going to take this role. Are you ready? And they'd be like, yes. I say, oh, and by the way, there's no cleaners. So would you help out cleaning? We need to clean the kitchen area. And they go, sure. And they jump in there and they do it. Value, 100. Go to that same person 6 months later, 9 months later. Oh, the cleaning guy didn't come in. Can you help out? You will get a totally different answer. Why? What has happened? What has happened is the classic error that most employees fall into, which is ego is rising. And the ego is based on how long I've been here, how much seniority I have, how safe I'm feeling. Have I produced some reports or some outcomes that people have liked? So now I've increased in my comfort zone, and then me clean the toilets, me, but there's others. And as soon as that mentality creeps in, boom, we're dead. Ego is rising, value is falling. And these two lines converge. And when they hit, then your value becomes zero. I don't care if you're in a company a year, 5 years, 10 years. As soon as your ego reaches your commitment, then your value is zero. And so there are a lot of people calling and telling me, Mark, I just lost my job. I told them, well, this is amazing because this is the greatest evaluation you've ever had. And they're like, are you serious? I said, yes, I'm serious. Because you were in the company, but you weren't giving the value you needed to give. I said, is somebody like you still hired? They say, yes. I said, okay, great. So you just got your evaluation. I said, yeah, but they didn't tell me this in the evaluation before. I said, yes, but you should know that. See, we live in a comfort zone. If this is our comfort zone and it's this big, so everything inside here, it feels good. And whatever you ask me inside here, it's okay. But your responsibility in today's environment is you got to break out of that comfort zone. You've got to go places you've never gone before. You got to pick up the garbage. You got to help out. You got to be willing to drive somebody somewhere. You got to be willing to whatever it takes. And if you have the whatever it takes mentality, you won't be on the list of people that are leaving. You'll be on the list of people that are indispensable and must stay. So I really encourage every single person, as Tony Robbins always says, add massive value. And I would add even a further line, which is more value than anybody else does. And as soon as you're in that zone, man, you're safe, not only now, but you're safe forever because you're constantly growing and constantly improving.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say that there are people who are doing their level best, but because of the situation, not necessarily because of their level of commitment, but they've lost their jobs. There've been companies are downsizing, they are looking at divisions differently, or they just don't have the money to run that division. And I've known of good people who've lost their jobs just because of this pandemic, which was unexpected. So in that situation, how do they come out of it, and how do they remain productive and go back into the workplace? Spencer, what would you say to that?
Okay, so let's take the stats. The stats demonstrate that most people don't like their jobs. So for those people that have lost their jobs, for some of them, it's a big sigh of relief. Okay, they don't have to face that ogre of a boss or that mundane task they had to do just to make money so that they could pay the bills and send some money back home to their families or whatever it may be. I think it's really important to understand that, because I think a lot of people, it's like anything, if you're in a relationship and your partner dumps you, you want them even more. Okay, we call it the takeaway close. And so the moment they don't want you, you really want them. Now, a year later, you wondered what you were thinking, but in that moment, okay, and then it's a little bit like buyer's remorse as well. You buy something, what did I do? What did I do? So when you have your job taken away from you, you have your security taken away from you. But having your security taken away from you should, okay, make you fire up. Now, you can become a victim or you can create a plan. And what most people do, they go into shock just like anybody else. So they lose their job, they weren't expecting it, they go into shock, then they have to regroup, and then they have to look forward. So it's just like a period of mourning, the relationship ends, the wife leaves the husband, they go into shock, they go into mourning, they go through the anger boxes and all that kind of stuff. And then once they're out the other side, it's like, right, I'm here now. What have I got to do? So some people that might have been in a job for 10 years or 15 years will find it harder to go through those boxes because of that longevity with the company. And a lot of people will find it easier. But once you get to that place, you have to say, right, I've just been doing a job for the last few years that wasn't my dream job. Maybe now it's time for me to think about what I really want to do. Maybe now it's really important for me to analyze what I really want to do. And I think most people that live in Dubai in particular, unless you're Emirati, most people aren't here forever. And as much as people say, this is my home, and I've been here 15 years, this is my home. I'm not retiring here because there's no facilities for old age pensioners here. There's no real structure in place. Now, will there be in 15 years when I retire? Maybe, but right now there's not. So most people are thinking where they're going to be in the future too. So I'd look at what I really want to do, okay? And I'd start saying to myself, what I really want to do, what I'm really passionate about, what I really care about. And nothing is off the table at this point. That could be, working with blooming abandoned dogs. That could be amateur dramatics. That could be computer coding. That could be selling. That could be starting your own company, become a freelancer, a consultant, or whatever it may be. I had a lady on my podcast yesterday called Ray, and Ray is from Lebanon, and she is a men's mental health coach. And I'm like, why do you do it? She said, my dad killed himself. He hung himself because he was lonely and sad and depressed. And I just don't want anybody else to go through what I went through. Wow, what purpose, what power, how much clarity she has. And she's doing her dream job now. Before, she was in corporate world, going through the motions. So think about what you really want to do, okay? And then say to yourself, if other people can do it, then I can do it, okay? Stop telling myself what I can't do. Let's start talking to myself about what I can do. Then when you know what it is, then what you've got to do is do some research to find out how you get into that space. Maybe you need a qualification. Maybe you need some experience. What is it that you have to do? And maybe those things you can't be paid for while you're learning them. And if that is the case, then be very clear on what you want. And then what you do is say, that's my goal. That's my objective. It's going to take 18 months to get there. Let's say that's the time horizon. I know my steps. I know what I've got to do. I'm clear. Now, in the meantime, I've got to earn some money so that I can pay for that and keep going until that happens. So I'm going to take a job, okay? I've just been working for the last 5 years in a job that wasn't my dream job, so I'll just take a job, get some income coming in for now, so that I can then spend my spare time focusing on what I really want to do. And I really believe motivation is irrelevant. Inspiration is essential. And if you could train to do your dream job over the next 18 months, and then you could live your lifelong dream of doing something you really loved, two things would happen, okay? The world would be a better place, okay? And you would be a better human being. And so that's why I think it's important, and that's what I think people should do.
Brilliant. Is it possible for companies to make their employees feel that they're doing their dream job? Is that a possibility?
Well, look, at the end of the day, only if they are. I can't convince you that, I don't know, one of my companies is a wealth management company and you work as a wealth manager. I can't convince you that's the best thing for you. That's, for me, one of those things is that it's like when people set targets for people. It's like, right, your target this year is X. It's like, well, I'm not motivated to hit that. You gave it me. If a manager said, what's your goal? And that person says, my goal is to hit this target. Okay, I'm going to help you achieve that. Okay, then you're going to get that done. But no, look, there are people out there that, whether they're financial advisors, insurance brokers, car salespeople, doctors, nurses. There's a bunch of nurses right now wondering why they did this for a living. There's a bunch of doctors that have spent the last 5 years studying, going, why on earth did I choose this career? What people do is they get trapped into that space of thinking they can't do anything else, and they can't do it because maybe they got married, or maybe they've got a mortgage, or maybe they've got kids. But look, we're not on the planet very long, and each of us has a gift. Each of us has something to offer the world. And if you can align yourself with what you've got to offer, what your natural talent is, what your natural passion is, I tell you what an epic world we will be living in.
Absolutely. Mark, what would you say? Is it possible for companies to make their employees feel that, this is the best place you can be in?
No, it's possible for people to make people feel that their life is contributing, and by being thankful, by encouraging, by praising, by doing all the things that you do with people that you love. You see, there's this ridiculous mindset that has got to be killed. It is the dragon, and it's got to be slayed. Someone's got to slice its head off, and that is business and personal life are not two separate things. People live one life. So get on board with this and help people to live an amazing life. If you're a manager, it doesn't mean you're some kind of little god. You're just another employee. And I talk to CEOs, and Spencer coaches CEOs, and these CEO guys, the number one thing we try to tell them is, listen, dude, you're an employee. You are a servant of the business, the same as the guy at the front door, the guy mopping the floor. As soon as we can get this value into people's heads, we're all in this company together. We're all this group of people elevating a business because we love what we do. Then, motivation doesn't exist. Then it's about just, oh man, I will do anything for this company. I just love being here. I love it. Why? Because everyone is a family. Everyone loves working together. And we learn how to get our differences settled in a really decent way. And as soon as you eliminate the gossip mentality and you have this mindset of, okay, we're going to be totally transparent. You two guys disagree with each other. Come, let's sit together. Let's talk about it. Let's get rid of it. And if we do that, people will be so excited. They just give so much more, and the company will succeed.
Perfect. Just a call out to anybody, if you have any questions at all so far about what we've been discussing, any issues you've been facing, either as an HR manager, either as an employee, feel free to send it across and we'll put it through to them. Another question I had was, I think this is one more for you, Mark. I know this is something you love speaking about, but a lot of companies have started, some of them at least, are looking at putting more pressure on the employees, because they know that the job market, the situation is not good. They know people are insecure about their jobs. So you see, again, maybe not companies, but specific managers or specific people in roles are putting more pressure on their employees to do more. Where would this lead to, do you think?
Well, that's just simply opportunistic. And it's very negatively opportunistic. It's taking advantage of people in a hard situation. And, wherever you're going to focus your energy is where you're going to get your results. So if you're going to put more pressure on people, what are you going to get? What does pressure do? Pressure creates mistakes. Pressure creates turnover. Pressure creates loss of focus. And I'm assuming you're talking about a negative kind of pressure here. And not that exciting effervescence of we're all in this together. It's going to be like, well, what happens is as soon as people feel that pressure, they start to tear each other apart. And so you're actually counterintuitive. So you're actually creating the thing that you don't want to see happen. So the objective here is I'm going to say it, get out of the 1980s, 1990s mentality of management. It is not a hierarchy. This Imar example is brilliant. And I think it will be in a massive case study. And a lot of people are going to be looking at that and saying, why did they do it and how did they do it? And even so, today on the streams, there's some negative comments out there about it. And there's some really positive stuff out there. But what was the main summary was this. He wants to create a pool of talent and not talented people inside a structure. And I think that, if you're trying to push, all this pressure down onto the people, so you're not treating them as talent, you're treating them as, bricklayers, or you're treating them as just simple labor. And that's an old mentality, and you're assuming that they just have to follow what you're giving them to do, and that's totally wrong. You got to go in there and build them, elevate them, be balanced, be fair, and understand you're going through trouble, they're going through trouble. So again, reach out, put your arms around people. If you would just concentrate on sharing good things with them and loving these people and inspiring them, they will come back with an amazing result. And that's where I really think it's got to go. So if you focus on pressure, you're going to get pressure. You focus on being good, you're going to get good.
So you get what you give.
Absolutely.
Both of you have used the word inspirational, but in reality, we have seen that there are people who don't think on those lines. There are people who are in higher positions who still believe in those old ways of management because they think that's the best way to work. So employees who are in companies who are working under such people, what would be the best way? Right now, there are not too many jobs in the market. So is it a good time? What are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to deal with a situation like this? Spencer, what would you say?
I don't know about you, but in most companies that I've seen, there's no metal railings. It's not a prison. It's a place of work. Yeah.
But it's still mentally. That's my thing. That right now a lot of people are feeling that they're stuck because they're scared. There are no jobs outside. There are few jobs. They're hearing about job losses everywhere. So mentally they are in that prison. Wouldn't you agree?
I get it. But let's just take one thing from a moment here. Okay, why are we focusing always on the employees being a victim?
Oh no, we're not.
Let's understand that every CEO in this city and around the world, okay, has probably got his house on the line, his personal wealth on the line for his small business. Okay, he's probably had more sleepless nights than you can imagine. Okay, been sitting there trying to work out, keep everything going with the business and pay for his house that's been wrapped up in the business too, on the fear of going bankrupt and all these things. And we talk about how we keep employees motivated. I think there should be a lot of employees that we should be saying to themselves, I'm so glad that I've got a job. And I'm so glad that the company gives me money every month. And I really have a lot of empathy for the guy that has taken the massive gamble on setting up this company and trying to create a service or a product or whatever it may be for this marketplace. So you know what? I'm going to give. I'm going to show that person, okay, that I support him. I'm going to show that CEO that I respect the gamble he took. I'm going to show that CEO that I'm on the same page as him, I'm with it, and I'm going to roll my sleeves up, I'm going to get stuck in, and I'm going to fight for this company, okay? That's what I believe should happen a lot more. We always talk about how bosses treat employees, but if you're an SME owner, okay, I guarantee you that a lot of SMEs out there right now that have gone bust and people have lost everything, okay? Everything. They've lost their home, they can't put their kids in university anymore because that money's gone as well, okay? Because they decided to set a company up and they were literally sideswiped by the coronavirus too. I mean, if the Marriott Group can sit there and worry about going bankrupt, I guarantee you every SME can do exactly the same. So I think we need to really take a long, hard look. Okay, if you're in a job right now that you don't love and you're scared to leave it because your boss is putting pressure on you, okay, my advice would be just have a little bit of empathy for what he might be going through. He might have unorthodox approaches and it might not be the best approach ever in the whole wide world for you. But you, when you joined that company, signed a contract, you signed an agreement, you expected to get money in return for work that you did. Okay, sometimes over the years you might have had to put in the extra hour here and there to help out when there was a deadline to meet and that kind of stuff. So the coronavirus has created a deadline that we all have to meet that's like nothing anybody's ever seen. Let's all just get our sleeves rolled up. Let's help each other. Let's be there for each other and let's respect everyone. And just as much as that lady that works at the company, okay, things are tough for her, okay, just as much as that lady that's a CEO of a small company, things are tough for her. We're all in it together. Let's be together, okay, and let's try and give a little bit more than we've given before. And I think when you give, you get. And I don't mean when you give, you get money back. I mean, when you give, all the training that I do for free. You know why? Okay, because giving selfishly gives me so much energy. When I help people, it personally charges my batteries. I do it for free because I get that engagement from it. That's a completely selfish thing. But if we all did a bit more of that, we'd see the benefit in giving. And I just think we could all do so much better and all win.
Mark, and I think you wanted to add something. I saw you.
No, I'm good. I really love the way you wrapped around. I like the pivot. It's really cool. I totally agree with that. I was going to say, if you want to solve it, ask us. We'll come in and help you do it. That was why I was smiling.
Moving to a different pillar, which is more on a health and safety side. Do you think regionally, as people get back to the workplace, is there enough confidence? Are regional companies handling it well as people come back to the workplace? Or is there still anxiety about from a purely health and safety perspective, because we still don't have a vaccine? So there's still that fear of contagion, and so you can't go back to exactly the way you were earlier, interacting with colleagues, interacting with in the workplace. So how is it being handled well from what you've heard so far? Mark, what would you say?
I think that everybody is just doing their level best to figure it out. I was talking with, I'm sure you won't mind me mentioning, the COO of Fly Dubai yesterday. And they got this massive challenge, like, we've got all these planes, we've got all these people, how do we make it work? And the rules change every single day, but not only in Dubai, in every airport where they're flying, rules are changing, planes get cancelled, and I only commend every single company. We've talked with 10 different companies here, and we've shared those interviews with you guys about how hard people are working and how much personal commitment they're giving to make it work out. And if you've got to put a mask on, you've got to put a sterilization thing, do it. Just do whatever you need to do. Just jump in and do it. And if it's not quite right, then figure it out and go the next step. So I praise every business that's still open. I praise everybody who's still going to their work. I praise everyone who is fighting to make a normality of life that is acceptable for everyone. And honestly, the people who are being idiots, I'd like to just give them the kef, as we say in Arabic, just stop it, wake up, get on board, stop being awkward, stop being, don't whine, don't waste your time on social media being negative. Get on board. The world needs you to step forward and be the greatest version of yourself right now. And just stop this messing around. I mean, if we want negativity, everyone can do it. But what we need is an exceptional level of greatness. We need people to go, you know what? I am good. Let me bring put that me to the party. And that will solve a lot of problems.
Spencer, from your side, from what you've heard, do you think there is anxiety about health and safety, or, is that being addressed well?
I think at the beginning of all of this, there was massive anxiety. If I left the house and walked back in the front door, my wife would hose me down, strip my clothes off, hose me down, okay? Literally at the front door, in a hazmat suit, thinking I was coming in with the bubonic plague or something. And so that's what it was for my wife, when that first happened. A month later, it was still, I didn't get hosed down, but I was undressed. And then, months after that, I could come in, but take my shoes off. And so I think we've kind of all got used to it a bit more. Now, there's people that have family members or friends that were affected by the coronavirus that had no symptoms. There were people that had family and friends that were affected by the coronavirus that had symptoms, and people have lost people because of it as well. So for me, you just must be respectful. If the government puts rules in, okay, then just respect them. They're not doing it to be difficult. They're not doing it to be awkward. They're trying to do what's right for the country. So just try and respect them. And how hard is it for us to put a mask on? Do I like it? No. Every time I put it on and I speak, my glasses steam up. I don't love it. But you know what? It's not going to kill me. And before we had the mask, it was the mask and the gloves. It doesn't kill me to do that. It's not my preferred, but it doesn't kill me. I just think that if the government brings a rule in, they're not trying to do it to make life difficult for us. They're just trying to do it for our own safety. And sometimes we don't know, okay, what's in our best interest when it comes to health and safety. And sometimes that extra cautious approach is right. Now, if you take my working environment, where my businesses are, Danielle, who's the CEO of my company, she has an immune deficiency disease, okay, autoimmune disease, okay. Rebecca, who runs one of our businesses, she has something called Hashimoto's. So we have people in the office that are really sensitive to it. Every business and every group of people and every environment's going to have their good and their bad and their weak and their strong. Just be sensible. Okay, and that's, as Mark says, there's all those people out there that waffle on about, I don't want to wear a mask, I don't want to do this, and all that kind of nonsense. Just like, with respect, you're a bit of an idiot, okay, and you don't need to be, because I guarantee you right now, if it was your mum or your dad that had got really sick, okay, you'd be the first one with a mask on, barking orders at people that weren't wearing the masks. So just be kind, just be considerate, and just do the right thing.
Right.
Fair enough. Now we will soon open the floor for questions. So if any of you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. But in the meantime, I had one. What would you say? Now we've spoken endlessly about the new normal. I mean, almost every other article that I read or write, there's always mention of the new normal. So in this new normal, and I know, Spencer, you don't like the word motivated, but I would say, okay, let's use the word inspired. So how do you ensure that people are inspired to work, and, how, is it all going to change? Is the way we work completely going to be changed? What would you say, Spencer?
Hell yeah, absolutely. See, it's already changed. It changed already. I was in your office the other day and everyone was sat around the boardroom table with masks, and I was told, look, we can't have everybody in the room because there's too many people. We've got to do social distancing. And then we're sitting here right now. Would I prefer to be in your office? The three of us sat around a table while we're doing this? Absolutely. Okay, it's changed. The world already changed. So what we have to accept is how that world has changed and how we as human beings are going to adapt to that, and then how we're going to accelerate through that. And like I said at the beginning of the conversation, there's people that are loving working at home. They're like, I'm just so much better like this. I'm a better dad. I'm a better husband. I'm a better employee. And there's people like me that are just wanting to jump out the window sometimes, going, get me some people to talk to. So different people in different ways, but we have to accept what it is. Slowly, it's going to revert back to a more face-to-face stuff once there's a vaccine in place, I'm sure. And eventually we'll get back to more people working in close environments, because one thing that's stifled by distance is creativity. And so businesses need, if you're in a creative type of industry, you need a whiteboard and people to brainstorm and bounce ideas off each other. And whilst that can be done on Zoom, it can't be done as well as if you're actually in person together and you're literally all with a marker pen drawing pictures and stuff. That's just so much better. So creativity needs that. I think that the business economics play a big part in this. There's a lot of companies that have been spending a lot of money on offices that maybe don't need to spend that kind of money on offices. So while that new norm is there, I think that that's going to be an order of the day. But in terms of people being motivated and inspired, whether you're the guy that likes to work from home, you're the guy that likes to work from an office, whether you're the guy that likes to work outdoors or indoors, whether you're the guy that likes to work as a consultant or a salesperson or an employee in a factory, building things with your hands, pushing buttons on a computer, whatever it is that you want to do, really remember, when a financial crisis comes like this, money doesn't disappear. It goes nowhere. It stays there. It just moves from my hands to Mark's hands, or Mark's hands to your hands, or your hands to my hand. Money just moves, and you can argue with the amount of money that's been printed over the course of the last few months, you could argue there's actually more money there. So the money is in circulation somewhere. So whatever business you're in, you've got to find out where it is and you've got to go get it. Okay. And that's the job of every business, and that's what their responsibilities are.
Fair enough. Mark, what would you say is going to be part of the new normal?
Sorry, I was so engaged in what you were talking about, and then you started talking about money. You reminded me of Grant, who you were interviewing recently, Grant Cardone. You know, that's his big thing. Go find the money, then find out who's got it. Now they go get it and make it your own. How? Add value. I don't think that part of life has changed. I think, you know, the important thing is just give 100%. I don't know. I don't have much to say on that. I just think giving 100% is never going to go wrong. And so no matter where you are and what you're doing, you know, if the rules change with the rules. Because if you're going to stick in your way, you're just one little person between the whole change that's going on. So don't resist it. Go forward. Experience something new. Try it. And you know, if that's not for you, then move somewhere else. Go to something else. Go and find yourself.
Perfect. So go with the change, go with the flow, and embrace it in a sense.
And lead it, maybe. You know, then you start creating. If you don't like what you see, then hey, who's stopping you from sitting down and going, you know what? I don't quite like this. Let me propose my ideas. Maybe you have the brilliant idea that's going to change lives for lots of people. But stop sitting there just like a passive blob and being directed and go here and do that. No, be your best self.
Fair enough. What would be, from your side, 3 tips to regional companies to ensure that they get the best from their people right now?
This is my favorite question. Number 1, this is going to happen again. Right? Every single person who was in Dubai for more than 10 years, this is not something you haven't seen before. So if you were surprised this time, guys, it's going to happen again. I don't know what it's going to be. You know, and lots of smarter people than I have given plenty of predictions, but this is going to happen again. So what do you need to do? Number 1, you need to have a brilliant saving plan that's going to give you a buffer. So the first decision you need to take is, hey, put aside 10% of everything you earn and lock it in a box and don't touch it. Create your own investment. Number 2, create some new dreams. Stop vegetating on what's going on and say, you know what? If I could create the greatest version of me, what would it be? Write it down. And number 3, get out of your comfort zone. Be it learning, go learn something new. There's more free learning today than there's been in the history of mankind. You can find out, you can go and study nuclear physics online, free of charge right now. Imagine, before that was hidden away. So find something you're going to learn, find something you're going to do that you've never done before. I started writing books during COVID, and I have produced one, and there's another one about to come out, and it's so exciting. Why? Because in a book, you create a whole world of your own. Everything that you write is like whatever you want it to be. So those are my 3. Number 1, save. This is going to happen again. Number 2, get some new dreams. Number 3, get out of your comfort zone.
Perfect. Spencer, what would be your 3 tips to companies as well as people that, how can you stay the best version of yourself?
As an employer, I think if you're coming at it from that point of view, I think that the important things to remember as an employer is to remember to value the people that work for you, okay, and genuinely value them, okay, take care, take time, okay, Mark said earlier, to make sure that you listen to them. That's number 1. Think about how you can make your company more of an exciting environment for people to be part of. Another thing you can do to get people re-engaged, get people back in the game with you again, think about how you can make it fun, exciting, dynamic and interesting for them as an employer. But also as an employer, if you have to give bad news, be compassionate. Understand that compassion is so critical at a time that's challenging for people, and you don't know the ins and outs of every employee's problems and personal situation. They could be going through hell already. So show them compassion, do the right thing, treat them as if they were a member of your family if you have to give them bad news. And by doing so, what you'll do is you'll make sure they then don't spend the next 2 years of their life writing horrible stuff about you online as well, okay, which people sometimes do. So my advice as an employer would be to think about those kind of things. I could sit and give you 20, 30 different things that I think every employer should do right now in terms of the steps they should take, but lead with compassion. Remember your employees are important. And remember to try and make this fun. This is all, we can't turn back the clock. We're already in it, and we're already coming out the other side and going into recession. It's not a dream anymore. It's now real. All right. And so because it's now real, let's get our sleeves rolled up. Let's get stuck in, and let's bring the best that we've got to bring, because the best we've got to bring is a lot better than a lot of us are showing.
When you say make the workplace more exciting, what would that be? For instance, what would you say? What could they do?
I'd have maybe a cocktail bar in the corner. I'd have the football on the screens. I think it'd be different things for different people, wouldn't it? I don't even drink. I don't know. I said a cocktail bar, but maybe a table tennis. Maybe have Hawaiian shirt Thursdays. I don't know. The amount of things that I've done with teams in terms of team building and team engagement over the years, just really ridiculous, simple stuff sometimes. Putting the teams to get people in teams together and get them collaborating with each other in ways they haven't before. Create competitiveness in the environment. Create an opportunity for people to be celebrated for the work they've done in areas that maybe they weren't celebrated before. As a business owner, what are your bold plans for the future? Demonstrate how the business has great goals and a great vision for the future, and think about exciting ways to get those people engaged and involved and inspired by those exciting plans for the future. And by demonstrating that, maybe you can get them to think about their own, BHAGs, their big, hairy, audacious goals themselves. And I think that kind of stuff is always wonderful and positive, And there'll be people that are working right now on half their salary or a percentage less than they were getting before. And so if they're working on half their salary right now, let's make it a bit more fun. I know the difference it makes when I go into an office with a box of donuts. Okay, if I go into an office with a box of donuts, I'm literally everyone's best friend for 45 minutes. Okay?
Look at Artie's face. She's dreaming. Donuts, bring them.
Bring donuts in, you get people's attention. And what does 24 donuts cost from Dunkin' Donuts? Nothing, okay, for what you get back. So think about things like that. And all those healthy eaters right now, all those people like Mark that won't eat a donut. Well, remember, bring them in a bowl of broccoli or something.
Yeah, veggie sticks, yeah.
Veggie sticks, carrot sticks.
Fair enough. So, just as a one line, what would you say is the best way? I'll come back to our headline topic. If you had to say in one line, how do you keep your employees motivated right now? What would it be? One line, just one line. Spencer?
To keep your employees motivated right now, the one line answer is find every way you can to inspire them.
Perfect. And Mark?
Give love, get love.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We've had a really engaging session. I have one question. Let me just open out.
Just a quick question. A lot of people are starting businesses now because it's an opportunity there. And I'm talking about the training and tutoring industries here. Everyone wants to start, training online, tutoring online, whether it's an app or a website or just offerings. How can one be different here? You've got so much experience here because the target market is the same. So how can you be different from the crowd here? Thank you.
Number one, if you're going to train and offer something online, you're not dealing with Dubai alone, you're dealing with the whole world. As soon as Corona came, I was getting inquiries from Germany, the UK, Holland and stuff like that. So don't think it's only here. And the best way to be different is to be different. And I know I say that kind of loosely, Harry, but that's the best way to be different. That anybody that's vanilla in any space in business, okay, we don't mind vanilla. Vanilla's all right. It's nice ice cream vanilla, isn't it? Okay, but it's not our favourite ice cream. What we want is mint choc chip, or we want blooming cookie dough or something like that. We want something that's not vanilla. And so what you have to be, I believe, is you have to remember that. You have to be stand out in your opinions, okay? Go against the flow if you believe against the flow. Don't fit into the norm of what everybody else thinks, you know? I'll give you an example. My business is sales training, and there's a lot of sales trainers out there, and I think a lot of them talk a lot of nonsense, and I say that online, okay? And I believe in what I believe in terms of my sales process, and I believe that salespeople are the most critical part of nearly every business, because no salespeople means no money comes through the door. And so I'm prepared to go out on a limb. I'm prepared to get in people's faces to talk about that. And I think if you are, then you get attention. And if you get attention, okay, then you get inquiries. If you don't get into attention, then you get nothing. And I think there's so much out there, so much opportunity out there for people, like Mark said, to learn, that you've got to be standing out in that way. You know, I've been doing training now for what, 4 years? Yeah, maybe just a bit longer than 4 years. There's 400 videos on YouTube. Okay, 400. I go live every single week. I'm trying to bring value. I'm trying to stand out. Okay, I know that none of my competitors in the Middle East are known as well as I am. Not that they're any worse than me, they're just different than me, but they're not, okay? They're not out there producing content and making sure they're getting people's attention.
I hope that answers your question, Harry.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Spencer.
There's one more question that's come up. What can be nominal saving options during cropped earnings is the question. Any of you would like to take that?
I advocate for every human being who has an income. I don't care whether you get $1, $10, 1,000, 100,000, take 1/10 and put it aside. And let this 1/10 accumulate. And as this 1/10 accumulates, if you've worked 10 years, you'll have 100,000 in the bank. If you've worked 15, you'll have 1.5. And it just keeps on going upwards. And it's about self-discipline. You imagine this money is yours to keep. You put it aside. You don't touch it. You don't go on vacation with it. You don't buy a new car with it. You don't go and get a credit card and just start burning it and then you can't pay it. And I can talk about this to anybody who wants to go through this personally one-on-one. Drop us an email. I will go with you with a session free of charge. I will do the session. It's a 1-hour session. We'll go through it. But listen, you've got to understand, when you say, oh yeah, but I don't have enough to save a 10th. That's why you don't save a 10th. If you say, I'm going to save this 10th and I'm going to live on the 90, your whole mindset changes. You will skip one lunch. You will skip. You will take the subway rather than or the metro rather than taking a taxi. You'll walk a little bit. You will make an effort, but you will make it happen. And you will reward yourself so strongly that after 3 or 4 months, you will see a bunch of little banknotes sitting there and you'll say, wow, I own these. And then once they become a little bit more, then you can start doing exciting things with them. But you've got to have a mentality. You know, I was reading a stream about people leaving Dubai, and it was just negative. I'm like, why are these people so negative? And then so I went back through the stream and I started seeing like, oh, I spent all my money in Dubai. Dubai is a money pit. No, it's not. You treated your money without respect. So your money went away from you. But if you would have said, I'm here in Dubai, I'm going to enjoy my life, but I'm also going to go home with this much in my pocket. And that much would have been driven by this intelligent saving of 10 or 1/10 of everything you earn. And if you do that, you create for yourself peace and joy and harmony and security. And if your company turns around and say, we don't need you, you say, that's okay. And you just walk away and you'll find somewhere else because you're already in a very positive and powerful mindset. So sorry, I go on a little bit here, but I really believe this. And I want every person listening to do this. It is the most satisfying, the most rewarding, the most awesome. And then when you got a bit, then you call Spencer and you say, Spencer, how do I invest this? And then he'll get it earning you a whole lot more money. Isn't that right?
Just add to that quickly. Let me just make sure. Okay, so there's some statistics. Average amount of money that was saved by people before the coronavirus hit us was on average 5% of people's income. When the coronavirus came and salaries were dropped, people were saving 33% of their income. Okay, it's the highest it's ever been. And that's because everyone went, holy macaroni, I didn't have any savings and I should have done. So it's a little bit like that short, sharp shock to the system where people are saving more. That's the first thing. Second thing, if you leave your money in the bank, it costs you money to leave it there because interest rates are below inflation. And so you've got the impact of deflation essentially on your money in the bank. So save your money automatically, just like Mark said, whether it's 10, 15, 20%, okay, automatically every single month into a long-term saving structure, meaning you can't spend it when you want to buy a new handbag or a new holiday or a new car, okay? It's locked away for your future. Important to do that. Another statistic to remember, if you save between 17 to 20% of your income for a period of 20 to 23 years, you will be able to retire on the same income you had on your last day of work. So give yourself that as a rule of thumb. And everybody that came to Dubai came here for a better life, to earn more money, to have a nicer lifestyle, and to be able to leave with more money in the bank. Everyone, that was their intention. Okay, they wanted a suntan, some people as well, but that's why they came here. Don't mess this up. Take it seriously yourself. Be really responsible. It's so easy to get seduced into all the expensive things in Dubai, but also remember there's people that live in Dubai on 2,000 or 3,000 dirhams a month and they make ends meet. So if you're earning more than that, okay, maybe you're not being as wise with your money as you could be. And I know for sure, okay, one simple example. I love running shoes, okay, I go to the gym every day. I saw online running shoes that were in a different color, my favorite pair in a different color to what I normally have. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm going to get those black ones. They were half price in the sale. I went to my wardrobe to get the size, to look at a pair of sneakers to get the size, looked at the size, put the shoe back down. I realized I had 10 pairs of running shoes. I'm like, do I really need to spend another 450 dirhams on another pair of running shoes? And that for me was a little moment where I went, okay, be a bit more sensible, Spencer. You don't need to do it.
We have another comment. This is not a question. This has come from Jonah Lane. She says, no question, just a thank you for a very inspiring session. Very useful to learn and reinforce so many points, and a reminder that compassion and a personal touch is the right way forward. Thank you. So thanks, Jonah. And thanks to Mark and Spencer. I think we've run out of time, but if you have any more questions, please feel free to send them, post them on our Facebook page. We'll take them up with Mark and Spencer and then we'll get back to you. And with that, we come to an end to today's virtual event. Thank you so much to our speakers and to all of you for listening in. We hope you found it beneficial. The entire webinar will be there on our website, gulfbusiness.com. We'll also send out a mail to all of those registered with details about training sessions offered as part of Gulf Business Academy by both Mark and Spencer. So any feedback, any comments you have, we appreciate all of that. Thank you so much. Thank you and have a great evening. Bye.